Hey guys! Welcome to our Instagram Live today. It is National Preparedness Month, which is in September, my favorite month of the year to get prepared and get ready for whatever is to come our way. And I am here to help you simplify this process. I know so many people, I talk to people all the time, they just feel overwhelmed by preparedness, they're not sure where to start. So I'm going to break things down every Tuesday from today until the end of the month. And we're going to talk about the three basics of preparedness. We're going to talk about water, food, and fuel. Obviously, those are pretty much the basics of life, right? There is the rule of three with preparedness, if you've heard of that. You can live about 3 minutes without air. Not much we can do with that. It's either there or it's not, right? 3 days, without water, and 3 weeks without food. So water is what we're going to talk about today because it is literally one of the most important things you can store. I tell people all the time, if you don't have a lot of extra money, you know, times are tough for a lot of people, please start with water. You can live a lot longer without food than you can without water. So water is totally imperative to your food storage. So that is always the place I tell people to start. So let's talk about how much you need, how to store it, kind of the basics of getting your food storage, your water storage supply. So the government, the FEMA organization, recommends that you have 1 gallon per person per day, and that families store a 2-week supply of water. Now you think, why would we really need to do that? Well, there's a lot of situations, whether it's natural, large disasters, an earthquake, a hurricane, food shortages. All of us know during COVID, water bottles were almost impossible to get. In fact, I was shopping and a lady took the 24-pack out of my cart. That's how desperate people were to get water, which was kind of ironic because in a pandemic, that wasn't necessarily the biggest issue. But it doesn't take a lot for food shortages to kind of get messed with. So right now we have fresh, good water coming out of our faucet. We never know when that time will come when that's not going to be there. So we need to be prepared. We cannot rely on anyone else, neighbors, the government to come and give us water. I remember reading stories of people in Louisiana when the hurricane came there, where they were just stranded on top of the roof and they didn't have water. And it took days and days before anyone was able to get to them. So basic necessity of life, super important to store. So let's talk about how we store that. So a 2-week supply of water, 14 gallons per person, equals 3 24-packs of water bottles if you like them individually stored. Now that, if we have a family of 7, times that by 3, that's 21 cases of water. Yes, that's a little more expensive than other ways to store, but the FEMA organization actually recommends you store your drinking water this way because it's already filtered, it's ready to grab and go. You could shove a bunch of these in a backpack, you could have them in your car. It's just so convenient. It's hard not to store a lot of water this way. Is it great for the environment? Probably not, but if it saves your life, it's going to be worth it. So that is how you kind of calculate. Think of the number 3 when purchasing water. You need 3 24-packs, and when they're on sale for about $3, that's about as low as they get. Compare that to Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart, that's a lot cheaper than there. For today, which only applies to anyone watching this today, Smith's has their 24-pack of Arrowhead water bottles, which are generally quite a bit more expensive, on sale for $2.99. So if you have time tonight, take your family, go and get, even if you can't afford your whole family's supply, which for my family would be about $65 if I were to buy 21 cases at about $3. So it may not even break the bank just to go out, get your 2-week supply of drinking water so you don't have to think about it again. So remember the number 3, you need 3 cases per person. Watch for them to go on sale for about $3. They do even go cheaper. So check out Dills to Mills, the grocery section, and I will keep you updated when those go on sale for less. Now, That may not be an option for you. Maybe you don't have room to store that much water in these cases. You can store water a lot of different ways. You can buy like 5 to 7 gallon drums. They even come in like 2.5 gallons. This is a really great way to store water. You're going to be putting tap water in it, so it's not already filtered, ready to go. You're going to have to do a couple things to get this ready. We use this one for camping, so this is not something I store water in. But if you bought it and it got shipped to you, all you would have to do is put a little dish soap in it, swish it around with really hot water, dump that out, and then put a little bit of bleach with water. The amount doesn't really matter because the residue of the bleach is going to be fine. Rinse that out and then fill it up with water. Now there's a couple tips to filtering your water, which we'll talk about in a minute. But if you want to have more of those large containers of water, maybe in your garage or basement or wherever you are storing your water, that's a really great way. You can get these on Amazon. Everything I talk about today, I have links on my blog at dealstomills.com. And then I also have them, I will have all the links here on Instagram as well as Facebook and YouTube. So those are really nice because you can store a little bit more. They are a little harder, like you couldn't tell your child to go pick this up and bring it with you somewhere if you had to evacuate. But they are kind of nice because it stores a lot more. A few other ideas is when you are done drinking your soda, if it's clear, you can do the same thing. Rinse it out with some dishwasher soap and then put a little bleach in it, rinse it out, and then fill it up. You can put 1/8 of a teaspoon of bleach into your water to store it. It's 1/8 of a teaspoon per gallon. And I have all of this information and the ratios and everything on the printable PDF on my website. So print this out. I keep this in with my emergency supply stuff as well as a folder I have with my food storage recipes. So it's just nice to know these calculations because if you didn't have access to the internet, you may want to figure out how much bleach you need and these chlorine tablets to purify your water. So clear would be fine for drinking. If you have colored bottles, this is also totally fine for cleaning and washing your clothes and washing your dishes. So don't be afraid to not just refill up these as well when you're done. Now these, because I'm probably going to use them mostly for cleaning and washing, I don't care where I store them. I store them in my garage. Most of them are in there, some in my basement. Kind of just try to have water in all different places. But these are really nice, inexpensive way, practically free. You drink the soda, just fill them up. Don't throw them away. Fill them up so that you have plenty of water for washing and cleaning. Because that 14 gallons per person is only for drinking water. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They think that's like all the water you need. Think about bathing, washing your clothes, washing your dishes. You're going to need water for a lot of different aspects. If you've ever had your water go out for a short period of time, you realize you are using water constantly. Washing your hands, all of these things that we do on a daily basis take a lot of water. So this is a really great way to store water without having to do much or spend any money. As well as if you still use the liquid detergent from, for your laundry, this is a really great tip to fill this up with water when you're done using it. Don't even bother rinsing it out. The extra suds in the container will be perfect for cleaning and washing. And so anytime you're done with these, again, you can store this in the garage. You don't care how long it sits there because it already has a little extra soap in it and you're not going to be drinking it. So you can totally store this wherever you need. This is a really great way. Basically, the only container you do not want to store water in is a milk jug. Because the plastic is so much thinner, it's not the right quality of plastic, it will deteriorate. So you could have them in your basement and then pretty soon they'll all just start leaking and you'll have a big mess. So do not store water in your milk jugs unless you know you're going to use it right away. So, soda pop containers, liquid laundry soap, I love storing water like that. Even like the bleach container, any container like this that's really thick plastic, juice containers, all of those are really great to store washing and cleaning water in. So bleach is something you'll want to have in your food storage. You need to make sure it's the concentrated kind, about 5 to 6% of bleach. And this is a really good way to filter your water. So let's talk about filtering your water. Let's say I've had some of these storing for a couple years now. You open it, it looks fine. Obviously, if it has stuff floating in it, if it smells bad, if it's dark in color, just use that for washing, flushing your toilet, all of those things. But if it looks clear and clean, then you have a few options to filter. And I like to store a couple different options just in the case that one of them doesn't work or I run out. So, least expensive option are these potable aqua tablets. These are super simple. You just put them in the water, let it sit for a little bit, and then it's safe to drink. I like because on the back it tells me exactly how to use it. It's $8.99 on Amazon. It could get to you by tomorrow. So I have the link for this. I like to store probably 4 or 5 of these. Just keep them with your water storage and just have plenty of these on hand to filter any water that you need. Another way is boiling, which boiling is super simple unless you have limited fuel. Obviously, if your power was out and you had to boil water, that's not going to be cost effective with the fuel you're storing. So you can definitely boil. All you do is you put the water in a pot, you boil it for 3 to 5 minutes at a high boil, and then you let it sit, cool down, and then you can drink it. So that obviously is super simple, doesn't take any product, but it does use your fuel. So kind of gauge that option. The other way is chlorination. So with the bleach, again, it's just 1/8 teaspoon of full concentrated bleach. No, don't have any bleach with scents in it. You don't want that in your water. So simply have your gallon of water, you put the little bit of bleach in it, you let it sit again for about 10 minutes. And like I said, all of this information is on here. And then that is ready to drink as well. So bleach is super important to have your filter tablets. Distillation, if some of you may have heard of like the Berkey, a great option to have for your foods, for your storage needs, but it is super expensive. It's about $500, $300 to $500 depending what size you buy. I don't think that's realistic for most families, and so that's not the perfect solution to filtering water, but if you have one, that's awesome. You can make one. My husband and his dad made this. It's basically a fake Berkey, but it's basically just 2 pots, and you can search homemade water filtration system made with pots and a ceramic dome. So you have this ceramic, it's like a dome, and it's a water filter element. And you put that in, you put the hot boiling water in here, and then the filtered water drips down into this lower part, and you buy a spigot, screw it on to your pot, and away you go. So this was about $50 versus $500. So again, this would take a little more prep and a little more expense, but if you're really wanting a few different filtration options, that's a really inexpensive way to go compared to buying them online. A few tips with storing water is to have, because when water sits, generally water can sit for about 1 to 2 years. If you look at the water, there's an expiration. Now, it's not that the water goes bad per se, especially if it's already pre-filtered. It's just that it won't taste very good. It'll be kind of stale. It'll have a little bit of an off taste. And that is generally because there's not enough oxygen in the water. So if you were to take 2 containers, pour some of your water in one pitcher and pour it into another pitcher, just back and forth, pour the water back and forth. That will really help the flavor and the taste of your water taste a lot better. So you can do that at any point. Once you've filtered it, just kind of shake it up a little bit, get the oxygen back into it, and that will help it taste better. There is one other thing I like to store in my storage. It's called alkaline tablets, and I link to this as well. It's tablets, or just like it has a dropper. And if you put that in any of these containers that you're storing for drinking water, just put a couple drops of that in there, and the water will last 6 years instead of 2. It just kind of changes the pH balance of the water. Really, really simple tip. I believe it's $19 for a bottle, and that will do plenty of water storage. So that just helps it taste a little better for a really inexpensive cost. And you could just store that and then use that as needed to help your water taste better. But if you have children, a lot of times if the water is not tasting normal to them, they will not drink as much and they'll get dehydrated. So it's important to have things that could flavor your still water. So I like to store some Crystal Light packets. These are just nice. You can easily pour them in your water bottle. Your kids will never know that it doesn't taste, quite normal. It's a little bit stale. This will help cover that up. As well as like lemonade powder, hot chocolate, powdered milk. All of these things will help your water just taste a little better. Even protein powder. If you like protein powder, that's a great thing to store in your food storage. All you need is water. And that will give you a lot of protein and minerals and vitamins. So having a few things in your storage to help your stale water taste better will really make the experience better for you and your whole family. Another tip, people ask me all the time, well, I'm going to get those 55-gallon drums to store water. That's fantastic. I don't really care how you store it, what size of container you store. I just recommend having a variety. So have some you can grab and go. If you want those large 55-gallon drums, you can totally store those. One tip is to make sure that you have the right attachments. So this goes into the 55-gallon drum, you screw that on, and then it's pressurized and it will pump out the water. And then you can fill up your pitchers of water or whatever you need. But this is a really important item to have if you are storing water in those 55-gallon drums. Now there are some really cool products on the market. I linked to one that our family loves. It's a 250-gallon drum that pretty much goes floor to ceiling, which is really smart because a lot of times we stack them and they're just awkward and cumbersome. These are just a 250, and it's not any wider than the regular drums, but you can store a lot more and they fit perfectly like in a garage. So they are a little more expensive. They're about $700, but that's a lot of water to be able to store on your property. So they're, like I said, that's 250 gallons. There's also something called IBC containers. It's basically, here in Utah, there's a guy in the Salt Lake Valley who sells them. Agave juice comes in them, or agave syrup, and then they rinse them out, get them all ready for you, and then you can buy them for a couple $100, and that also stores 250 gallons. So that's a great way, like if you have large pets like horses, dogs, animals that you also need to keep alive besides your family, that's nice to be able to store such large quantities. Of course, only if you have the space. But I would be much happier to have the space in my garage for water than I would some random toys. So with a little organizing, you can pretty much store as much water as your family needs. So again, simply print off this page. It's just a PDF on water storage. I have a lot of other tips on here about storage guidelines, some water sources you maybe don't think about, like your hot water tank. That's a perfect storage of water that everyone will have. Just make sure that the electricity and the gas is turned off before you start using that water. Your toilet, the water in your tank could be filtered or used for washing, even just the house cleaning. I know it sounds really gross, but the tank, the water of the toilet, the tank behind it stores quite a bit of water, and that water you could filter and use. Ponds, streams, rivers, swimming pools, all of these items, or all of these ways you can store water, are just really important to think through for your family. Okay, so here in Utah, probably an earthquake will be the situation that I'm picturing, that we will not have running clean water. And so just think through like, hey, do we have a pond nearby? Do we have somewhere that we can go and get water that can be filtered? So one last thing I want to talk about is having the right filtration system. Now, I have all of these different aspects of filtering water, but there is a filter that I absolutely love. I've done so much research on these filters. I'm not going to spend hundreds of dollars on a filter, but I do want something that can quickly filter water if we got to the point where we had to drink some of this water that's been sitting there for a while. There's a filter called Katadyn, Katadyn, and I linked to this in the blog post. It is a super simple filter to use, and it's right around $100. So that's a really good item to give for Christmas, but that pretty much, you could put that filter in your toilet bowl water and have perfectly healthy, safe drinking water. You can put it in a pond. You can put that filter in really any body of water and be able to get water that you can drink safely for your family. So start with the basics, start with the inexpensive way to store water, and as you get a little more money, or it's Christmas and you're thinking of presents that are a little more meaningful that will be useful for your family, buy one of those filtration systems, because then that way you don't have to stress about rotating your water, you don't have to stress about where you're going to get your water. It just opens up a few different options. So thanks for joining, and join us next week. We're going to talk about food storage. Everybody knows that is my favorite thing to talk about. And we are going to discuss some of those basics and how I store my food and everything like that. So come back next Tuesday, same time, same place, 11:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and we will talk about food. So if you have any questions, please comment below on water storage. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I just make sure we have plenty of water, and I hope you do too, because your family will definitely be blessed if you are prepared for whatever is to come. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you soon.